Season 4 of Dexter had arguably the best villain in the series, but everyone seems to have forgotten about the villainess of the season, Christine Hill. Even on my first watch of the Trinity show, there was something unsettling about Christine's obsession to obtain her father's love. And although we all know a girl with daddy issues, this is different. Trust me. Today, I wanted to revisit the evil of Christine and dive into why she is criminally underrated. For starters, we first meet Christine in episode 1 of the season, Living the Dream. Outside the house of the Lisa Bell crime scene, Quinn is approached by a young reporter, Christine Hill, from Brewer Journal-Dispatch. She flirts with Joey to gain information about Bell's death, and he gives her his phone number. Later, when her article of the murder goes front page, she gives Quinn a copy and asks for more. Joey tells her off the record about the vacation murders, and to thank him, she offers to buy him a drink. Not too long after another article is published about the vacation murders, LaGuerta tells Quinn he should tell Christine to lay off the creative writing. As the case advances, Christine is told to wait for a press release since Maria and Angel almost died the day before trying to catch the killers. I'm sure you can already tell that Christine is using Quinn, and he just can't stop pillow talking. So it's no surprise when he spills the beans about Lundy's theory on the Lisa Bell murder being connected to a big serial killer case. Finally, Quinn is confronted by Deb after the Lundy story is leaked, forcing Quinn to end things with Christine. Following this, Deb and Lundy are gunned down outside the hotel, but unfortunately, Lundy doesn't make it. At the crime scene, Christine shows up to confront Quinn and is told by Angel to publish a story about Johnny Rose having syphilis, leading to Nikki Wald getting arrested. Lucky for Christine, she's back on good terms with Quinn, but he still refuses to let her interview Deb. Still hungry, Christine attempts to form a hero piece about Deb, but Dexter intervenes and tells her to stay away. Since Christy hasn't come up with a juicy story, she's at risk of losing her job and visits Quinn for support and juice, as in a story. Before leaving, she spots instructions for taking mouth swabs on the table. This is convenient since the next morning she talks to Deb on her coffee break, asking if the roadblocks are connected to Lundy's shooting. To shut her up, Deb agrees to the hero piece interview. Outside the Mitchell's house, Arthur picks up the morning newspaper and takes note of the journalist, Christine Hill. In the station, Quinn and Deb discuss Trinity's victims and Christy pays a visit. Deb and her have a little small talk, but what's interesting is when comforting Deb, Christine says it must have been awful to look into your loved one's eyes as he draws his last breath. Remember this. At Thanksgiving, we see that Christine has developed feelings for Quinn and he's more than just a source. They're a couple. Back to Deb, who's spending Thanksgiving at Dexter's. While talking to Cody about the shooting, she realizes something. How would Christine know that Deb watched Lundy take his last breath? At the end of the episode, Christy gets a knock on the door and she whispers Joey. But to our surprise, it's Trinity, her father. On the day of the interview, Deb asks Angel to watch Christine interview her. We know where this is going. When Christy sees the photo of Lundy, she is visibly distraught and ends the interview early. Deb pieces things together. Christine lives 60 minutes away from the hotel Lundy was shot at. She was at the scene at 5:20, despite dispatch putting out the call at 5:05. Christine leaves the station and calls Arthur because she knows she's in trouble, but he's not interested in seeing her since he just saw her yesterday. The next day, Christy calls again, but this time says we're in trouble, and confesses she saw Trinity's ritual when she was little. At the meetup, we learned she was 5 when she saw what her father did, and she knew it wasn't a dream because 30 years later, he did it again at the same house. Since Lundy was starting to get close, she got in with the homicide department so she could kill Lundy and make it look like a vacation murder. Christine will do anything for her father, and she knows none of Arthur's other kids would go as far as she did. Later, she is taken to the station for questioning, but doesn't crack. When she finally leaves the station, she calls her father twice, but both times he rejects helping her. In a final attempt to do good, Christine decides to confess her crimes to Deb at her apartment and asks her for forgiveness. Deborah, like Arthur, rejects her and the reality of Christy's life sinks in. Her father doesn't want anything to do with her. She ruined her relationship with Quinn, and Deb, rightfully so, can't forgive her. With nothing left to lose, Christine ends her own life. This twist was amazing. Not only was it shocking, but it adds so much to Christine's character. Before finding out the truth, we just think Christy is a hungry reporter using Quinn. It's also great since this season contains weird love filler that doesn't really go anywhere, so we view Christine as a side plot. When it's revealed she's Trinity Jr., it begins to make sense, even though I'd argue there wasn't clear signs or clues she was responsible. The best villains are the ones right in front of you, and this season does not miss when it comes to villains. I personally didn't see this coming, and even on my first watch was invested in Christine's arc. When you find out who Christy really is, you start to realize she is a very neat monster. She's able to get in with a police detective, well, it is Quinn, frame a murder for another killer's MO, and make a little bit of money on the side writing headlining newspaper articles, and she's not even showing off. If Dexter had his focus on her, I'm sure she would have been found out quicker, but still, she hides the truth almost perfectly. What makes this twist great is how unsettling our little reporter becomes after we find out. Her reason for her actions and her inevitable downfall comes down to her need to be loved. Although we're not told the reason why Arthur starts a new family and neglects his first daughter, it's painfully clear Christy is lonely. We first get a glimpse at this when Quinn doesn't want to come over for Thanksgiving. She mentions how she doesn't want to be alone on Thanksgiving, and even though it's an easy thing to say to make someone guilty, it's more than that. For years, Christine has been on her own, while her father's been too busy playing family man. I honestly think it's quite tragic that even though Christine proved she would do anything for Arthur, he still finds her disgusting. This is probably not new to her, but with the length she went to protect him, Christine probably had her hopes up. What makes her such a disturbing villain is her self-awareness to the fact that she'll never be good enough, but she'll still put herself in danger for Daddy. If we compare her to Lila, they're both obsessive, but one of them actually moved on. Also, although Christy tells Deb that she is sorry, not once before her final moments is she guilty for her actions. In her mind, protecting her father who doesn't even love her is justified, because maybe he'll realize she is the superior child. When she receives her final rejection, she is removed from Fantasyland and decides to live in the real world. It's just ironic that now her father is completely out of her life, she comes down to earth. The only reason Christine Hill is underrated and kind of forgotten is because of how big of a character Trinity was. You could put any antagonist in season 4, apart from Brian Moser, and I guarantee Arthur would overshadow them. Not to mention, we also had so many storylines to follow, like Jonathan Farrow, the innocent photographer Dexter killed, and Zoe Kruger, the officer that iced her family. This is a dense season with interesting plots from start to finish, and when we aren't getting side missions, we're watching a power struggle between Dexter and Trinity. Although Arthur doesn't necessarily stand a chance against Dex, it's the danger he brings to his family when figuring out Kyle Butler is just a facade. Unfortunately, a strong main antagonist always overshadows a secondary antagonist in the Dexter universe, but it sucks that this is the case for Christy. If I'm being honest, there would be no season 4 without Christy, since she's the final piece to the puzzle. Remove her character and we only get half the story. If the vacation murderers were the ones who actually shot Lundy and Deb, it wouldn't really hold any weight. Also, I hate to admit this sets up Quinn to be a bigger prick in season 5 because trauma, I guess. Rewatching this season was mostly great, but I couldn't stand how annoying Joey was. He was constantly acting aggressive towards Dexter, and although the writers tried to make him a little Dokes 2.0, it didn't work. Maybe he just didn't have the same magic, but I prefer him when he becomes the homie later on. Anyway, what I liked about Christine was the fact that she knew who Arthur really was. Trinity's family were completely blind to the fact that he was a killer, but what made it more interesting was that one child he didn't want knew his secret. She even saw his ritual when she was 5, which explains why she's more than a little messed up. And if Trinity wasn't evil enough, he tells her he wishes she was never born despite what she did for him. Extra moments like this show us that Arthur Mitchell didn't have a single good bone in his body and was truly a menace. As simple as she is, Christine Hill fascinates me because she almost feels real. She isn't a serial killer or some crazy ex looking for revenge. She's a neglected child that tried to protect her father. What makes this still sweeter is the fact that after she reveals she was behind the murder, she isn't even accepted. In fact, she is practically spat on. In a world where monsters and humans coexist, Christine blends right in, but ultimately suffers for the price of love. After all, this sort of thing creates a different type of evil. If you enjoy hearing about underrated characters, please consider subscribing. It may seem small to you, but it means the world to me. Have a blessed day.